this prison is made completely out of TNT, and it's gonna explode in 20 minutes. And my friend Korean coded it, so if I broke any TNT block, the entire prison would explode. And when I spawned in, the timer started. And the first thing I saw is a sign that said the exit is down. And we were standing on a platform with ice surrounded by bedrock. So right away, I knew we had to melt this ice to make water to flow down to the exit. But in front of me was a room with a villager inside. So I parkoured to the room with the villager. And his name was Jonathan. And Jonathan was trading one dark oak sapling for a chorus fruit. But I had no idea what a chorus fruit was supposed to do. And I had no idea where to find a dark oak sapling. But when I ran back, I saw that there was a chest right above the main platform. But from where we were too far away to reach it. So I jumped back to the main platform to try and look for any clues to be able to get that chest. And after looking around for a little bit in F5, I noticed that there was a hopper underneath this platform. So I crouched to the side of the platform and opened the hopper, and inside was a dark oak sapling, which is exactly what villager Jonathan wanted. So I parkoured over to villager Jonathan. Take my wood, Jonathan. We now have fruits. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with fruit. And we still have to get up to that chest. And if I eat the chorus fruit, it's a very small chance it's going to teleport me up there. So it's basically useless. And at this point, I was panicking because already 5 minutes and 30 seconds have passed, and all we have is fruit. So I started to look around in villager Jonathan's room to see if he was hiding anything. But I saw no fake blocks, and I looked at the ground to see if there's any string or any other hard to see items, but I found nothing. But when I was looking around, I noticed that villager Jonathan was standing on a hopper, and inside the hopper was a piece of bedrock. And using this bedrock, we could build up and we could reach the chest up there. So I placed the bedrock and jumped on top of it. And then I crouched all the way to the edge of it and jumped and opened the chest. And inside the chest was a blaze rod and another piece of bedrock. What am I supposed to do with these items, and how is this gonna help me melt ice? But when I was looking at the chest, I noticed that there was a room right behind it. So I placed the other block of bedrock and I jumped up to the platform. And in this back room was a furnace. And inside the furnace was a piece of coal. So I was thinking maybe we have to craft something with the coal to melt that ice, because ice has to be next to a level of light of at least 13 for it to melt. But we had nothing to craft the coal with, so that wouldn't work. But if we were able to bring the furnace next to the ice block and we smelted something inside of it, it would actually create a light source of above 13. But the problem was we had no way to move or smell anything in the furnace. But I noticed that there was a crafting guide in the furnace. And when I opened it, I realized we actually did have something to smell. We could smell our chorus fruit into a popped chorus fruit. And since that was literally the only thing we could do, I did it. So now the only items we have is a blaze rod, a popped chorus fruit, and a chest. So I went back to the main platform to try and think of how I can melt the ice. And then I realized something. If we craft our blaze rod and chorus fruit into 4 end rods, it actually creates a light source of 14. So I placed the end rod right on top of the ice, and after 5 seconds, the ice turned into water. But before I jumped down, I made sure to break the sign in case we needed it later. And I went to Jonathan and I spoke to him. Jonathan, I promise I will escape this prison and I will come back for you and break you out. I love you. And then I jumped down into the next room. And in this next room, all there was a crafting table and another area with a brewing stand. But other than that, that was it. And there was also nothing inside the brewing stand. And we also had no blaze powder, so we couldn't brew anything. But when I was looking around, I noticed that there was another room. And to get into this other room, we need to get at least 6 building blocks. And right now, if we use our chest, the crafting table, and the 3 end rods, we're only gonna have 5. So we needed to find another block. And the first thing I did was mine the crafting table because there was probably something behind it. And just as I thought, there was a piece of gunpowder. But still, we had no way to climb to the next room. And the only thing we had to work with was this brewing stand. And the brewing stand would be a perfect building block to reach the next room. But we didn't have a pickaxe. And if we broke the brewing stand with our fist, it wouldn't drop. But as I was looking around, I noticed that there was a hopper on the ceiling. And inside was 9 wheat. And now we had all the blocks we needed to climb to the next room. And the first thing I saw in this room was a blaze powder. But other than that, the only other things here was this hole that led to the next room and this little path of redstone dust that had a 1 block opening right next to it. But I had no idea what this redstone dust was connecting to. And I was very nervous because it was right next to the TNT. So any wrong mistake could explode this entire prison. And to make things worse, we only had 10 minutes before the entire prison would explode. And we had no way to activate that redstone. And all I could think about is how we failed Jonathan. If we weren't able to escape, he would explode in the prison, and we could not let that happen to Jonathan. So I turned on my brain. And while I turned on my brain, I noticed that there was something on the ceiling. There was a piston and an ender pearl. And right behind it, it looked like a path where redstone would be connected. So that means that was the other side of this redstone path. So if we were somehow able to power this redstone, it would push the ender pearl off and we would be able to throw it and get to the next room. But the problem was we had nothing to power the redstone. All we had in our inventory was a blaze powder, a gunpowder, and a sign. And I was completely confused. I had no idea what we were supposed to do. So I started to click on the ground to see if there was any hidden or fake blocks, but I didn't find any. So the only option I had had was to go back to the first room. And that's when I noticed it. There was literally redstone here the entire time and I didn't see it. So I picked up the 4 pieces of redstone and kept looking around to see if there was anything I could do. I knew that the brewing stand had a purpose, but I had no idea what because we didn't have the materials to craft a potion. And after checking both rooms, I found absolutely nothing. But then I realized we could actually go to the first room we were in because maybe I missed something over there. So I parkoured over, and when I got there, I immediately noticed what we missed. There was a water bottle right under the platform we were on. So I jumped into the water stream and grabbed the water bottle. And this wasn't just a normal water bottle. It was an awkward potion. So then I went back to the brewing stand and put my blaze powder and my awkward potion inside. But the only thing we could do was use the gunpowder to make it a splash potion. And that was completely useless. But the thing was, that was the only option we had. And we were running out of time quick. So I decided to just make the potion into a splash potion. So now the items we had was an awkward splash potion, 4 redstone dust, and an oak sign, which are completely useless by themselves. So I decided to go in the crafting table to see what crafts I could make. And there was literally nothing useful except for one thing. And that was this target block. And we could actually craft it using the hay bale we got from earlier. And that's when it hit me what we had to do. We could throw this splash potion on the target block, and that would make a redstone signal, and it would activate the piston and drop the ender pearl. So I placed my crafting table at the top and broke the hay bale. Then I used my 4 pieces of redstone and the hay bale to craft a target block. And then I put the target block next to the redstone and threw the awkward splash potion on it. And the redstone activated and the ender pearl fell down. And then I threw the ender pearl into the next room. And right in front of me seemed to be the exit, but it was actually a command block that said it was the deactivate timer button. And when I pulled up the timer, I found out that we only had 5 minutes left until this entire prison would explode. So we had to somehow cross this giant gap to turn it off. And right next to me was a hopper, and inside had 5 gunpowder. And there was also a room right next to me. And inside was a chest that said that there was blocks inside. But there was a 2-block tall wall blocking me from entering. So we had to find a block to be able to get inside the room. And the only other thing here was this lava path. And when I went in F5, I saw that there was a room on the other side. But we had no potion of fire resistance, so we couldn't just swim through. But then I realized we had the sign from before. So I placed a sign on the lava source block and waited for the lava to go down. And inside the room was a hopper and a crafting table. And inside the hopper was 3 copper, a flint, and an iron ingot. And then I opened the crafting table, and I already knew the iron and the flint was to make a flint and steel. But I had no idea what 3 copper and 5 gunpowder was supposed to do. So I decided to open the crafting menu to see what I could craft. And that's when I found we could use our 3 copper ingots to craft a lightning rod. And so I ran all the way to the room with the blocks and placed the lightning rod. And inside the chest was 4 sand. And 4 sand was enough blocks for us to bridge all the way to the TNT deactivator button. But before I placed the sand, I realized something. If I place the sand, it's just gonna fall. And it didn't even look like 4 blocks was enough to reach the deactivator timer. And we only had 2 minutes left before this entire prison exploded. But I was completely out of options. And I thought about Jonathan. He was all alone in the prison without me. And in a minute and 30 seconds, he would explode. All I want right now is to be able to hug Jonathan and tell him how I really feel about him. But that wasn't gonna happen. We were both gonna get exploded by Korean's prison. Hope was completely lost. But then I told myself, I am not gonna let Korean win. And I started to think, and that's when I realized exactly what we had to do. So I ran to the crafting table and I used my 4 pieces of sand and my 5 gunpowder to craft a piece of TNT. And I was gonna use the TNT to escape the TNT prison. And we only had 1 try at this and less than a minute to do it. So I placed down my TNT and used the flint and steel to light it up. And I waited for the TNT to light up 8 times. And then I jumped off the edge and it boosted me to the platform. And with 30 seconds remaining, I was able to stop the countdown. So I started to make fun of Korean. But then he pulled out a bow that had the flame enchantment and he shot the prison. And Jonathan blew up. But the fight between me and Korean is not over. We're racing to 500,000 subscribers and he's always been in the lead. So if you enjoy these videos, subscribe.